D23 was this last weekend down in Anaheim, California, and I did not get to go. But the team from Ravensburger was there, and they put on quite the show on Friday night. They laid out the next 2 years of Disney Lorcana, and we are going to talk about everything they announced. Some good, some bad, and some things that are absolutely incredible. So make sure you stick around because it is jaw-dropping. The presentation opened with a few housekeeping notes that aren't super important, but they are at least fun to talk about. First off, this D23 actually represents Disney Lorcana's 3rd anniversary, the game having debuted in February of 2023. In that time, they have printed 2.8 billion cards, which is enough to circle the Earth more than 5 times, but is still not enough to keep Attack of the Vine in stock anywhere around me. Seriously, I haven't seen a pack in weeks. But that does make sense given the hype around this latest set. Attack of the Vine actually set records for pre-release attendance. I will point out, though, this is only the 2nd set with a dedicated pre-release kit, so that might have something to do with it. The last thing they mentioned was that Ravensburger has plans for Disney Lorcana up through 2029. This does not mean that Disney Lorcana only has 3 years left. That's just how far out they are planning. And that much lead time is pretty much industry standard for the TCG world. But it also means that audience reactions, whether positive or negative, can't immediately be taken into account. So do be a little bit patient when you're offering feedback. After that, they did talk about some of the products that were available at D23. I made a video about this last week, so for the sake of time, I won't rehash that here. Then they talked about Disney Lorcana Challenge Season 3, aka Season of Villainy, but only enough to mention that the first event, a CCQ held at D23, would be live streamed on Twitch, and that throughout the broadcast, they would drop more information about Season 3. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about that in another video because they made some huge announcements there too. This brings us to the meat of the presentation, and that was a veritable feast. We really can break this down into 3 different categories. We can talk about the sets, we can talk about the products, and we can talk about the events. And obviously we're going to start with sets because it is the least surprising category. In broad terms, they gave us a little bit of information about the next 4 sets coming out, which is pretty much the same thing they give us whenever a normal set reveal happens. It's just a couple of months early. The next set will be called Hyperia City and will take place in a thriving metropolis of the same name. Now, as a fun fact, the name is actually an homage to the original Walt Disney Studios located at 2719 Hyperion Avenue in Los Angeles. That's where they were between 1926 and 1940, after which they moved over to Burbank. This city, not Los Angeles, but Hyperia, is actually split into a bunch of different neighborhoods, each with a distinct aspect catering to a variety of glimmers and illuminaires. They even showed us a map of what the city looks like, a copy which is actually in each pre-release kit, so be on the lookout for those. There are a couple of interesting hints they did drop about this set. First, they kind of let slip that this would be a song-heavy set, which isn't very surprising. The only brand new franchise confirmed for Hyperia City so far is Coco, and music does play a central role in that story. Also on the subject of franchises, I did predict in my last video that we would see something dark and probably Halloween adjacent announced, and I was absolutely wrong. I was thinking maybe Hocus Pocus or Nightmare Before Christmas, but the bright, cheerful aesthetic of Hyperia City that they revealed to us doesn't really mesh with the gloomier nature of those 2 movies, and it's actually got me wondering if Coco will be the only new franchise we're going to get. This would be a bit of a break in tradition, but it actually kind of makes sense. You see, right now, Disney Lorcana has somewhere between 50 or 60 different franchises, and that depends on how you classify all the Mickey shorts and films, if you're doing them separately or if you're lumping them together as just Mickey and Friends. Regardless of how you do that, that's a big number. And I'm not actually worried about Ravensburger running out of fresh properties for them to use in the game. More so, this is what I would call the ensemble problem. You see, we're reaching a point like a certain superhero movie franchise where you've got so many characters you can't reasonably give them all equal time and expect us to connect with them. So you got to pick your battles by focusing on a few at a time and then moving on to the next. This happens with every Lorcana set. We'll get maybe a dozen or more properties, and only a few of them will really be a major focus for the set. Then they'll disappear for a while, and we won't see them for 3, 4, 5 sets. As an example, like think about Big Hero 6. Every Big Hero 6 card we have in the game right now was printed in either Azurite Sea or Arcasia's Island. And it wasn't until a few weeks ago when it was accidentally revealed that Big Hero 6 would be returning in Hyperia City. That's an absence of 6 sets. Now, Big Hero 6, I love it, but I'll admit it's not one of the core Disney films. So what about Little Mermaid? Same thing happened there. It was a huge focus for set 4, understandable since it was Ursula's return. And then the next time we saw any cards from Little Mermaid was in Fabled, and all but 2 of them were actually reprints. My point here is that if they keep giving us new properties, it doesn't give us enough time to savor what we have. So focusing in on a couple of properties that we've had for a while does make a ton of sense. And given what we've seen from the product images, the cards that they revealed at the D23 panel, and a few things that were mentioned, it sounds like Hyperia City's focus will be, in addition to Coco, on the Jungle Book / Tailspin, probably more on the Tailspin side of things, given some of the art we've seen, especially of Shere Khan, and 2 of the new revealed locations that we got, specifically Khan Industries, Greenway Landmark, and Khan Stadium, State of the Art. There's also going to be a big focus on Mickey and Friends. This feels a little bit like cheating, perhaps, because they're literally in every set, but this is also Mickey Mouse. To that end, they did tease us with these reveals, one of Mickey Mouse Urban Visionary and the other of Donald Duck Taxi Driver. We can't really see a lot about either of these cards. I mean, some basic stats, and clearly they're not legendary, but that is about it. There is some blurred text underneath Minnie, so she does something. She's not a vanilla character. For Donald, we really don't know anything. I will point out that Cab really reminds me of Benny from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but I think that's less about foreshadowing and more just a coincidence. Another card they tease us with is this Mickey Mouse Best in Town. Again, not a legendary and a lot of information that's missing. They did reveal this would be one of the 2 iconics in the set. I really think they nailed it with that art. There is a whole video that I can, and I probably should make, about shape language of each ink color. That is to say, the art styles and the lines that go into making cards of each particular ink. But all I will say here is that this art really does follow those guidelines laid out for Amber. I also just want to shout out the obvious love for Disney lore here. Depicting Mickey Mouse as a hot dog vendor is just fantastic. The reason being is, while his first cartoon was Steamboat Willie, the first cartoon he ever spoke in was The Carnival Kid, and his first words, appropriate enough for this card, were hot dogs. He was also voiced by Walt himself at that stage. So just a fun little full circle moment there. A few more half reveals here, each of them Dreamborn princesses: Mulan in Ruby, Belle in Emerald, and Rapunzel in Amethyst. You can tell by the way the art breaks the frame, these cards are all legendary. And since we have one princess from each of these 3 ink colors, I wouldn't be surprised to see a full cycle, that is, a Dreamborn princess in every color, so in Sapphire, in Amber, and Steel as well. We have seen cycles like this before, cards that are mechanically related but separated out through the ink colors. I don't think we've ever seen something like that at Legendary, though, so that's an interesting change. Couple more reveals we got. First up was Pepita, Sweet Kitty. Very simple, very basic, but she pairs great with the next card, Pepita, Imelda's right hand. A couple of takeaways here. First, Attack of the Vine was kind of a swan song for Floodborn as a characteristic. We will see them periodically, but they won't be nearly as common as they have been. That said, shift as a mechanic clearly is not going away. We see that especially with the supers transforming from their mild-mannered alter egos into their super identities, and we're seeing it here with Pepita shifting from her kitty form into her Alebrije form. Also with this, we see the Coco cards really care about things being in your discard. A couple reveals from earlier: Miguel Rivera, street musician, he gains +1 lore and singer 3 if you've got a song in your discard. Hector Rivera, Gone to Pieces, from the new D23 set, he gains a lore and has evasive for that song in your discard. Pepita here gets a boost to strength and to her lore if you've got 10 cards in your discard. We can expect to see more of this when we get closer to reveal season. The Coco cards also seem to be centered around Amber, Amethyst, and Ruby. There are a couple other new mechanics in Hyperia City, both of them on a card that we've already talked about. So let's go back to Mickey Mouse Best in Town. Later after the panel, they revealed the full versions of both these cards, the regular and the iconic. The iconic just lists off the abilities. The regular version gives us an explanation. So we have Adventurous here. Pretty simple. He can't challenge and must quest if able. It is the exact opposite of Reckless. I will point out Adventurous doesn't prevent him from exerting for other reasons like singing a song or being activated for something like the Sword of Shan Yu. The other one matches up to a card that got accidentally spoiled a few weeks ago when someone jumped the gun on the new 2-player beginner product. It's ink drops. This one seems pretty intuitive. It's temporary ink that you can store in between turns. There's a very similar mechanic to this in Magic called Treasures. I like it. I think this will be an interesting mechanic to play around with. I'm curious though to see if this is just going to be something we see for just a set or two like we have with Boost, or if this becomes something that is more common in the game like all of our keyword mechanics. Finishing out Hyperia City, this will pre-release at local game and hobby stores on October 16th with a wide release 1 week later. Moving on from Hyperia City, this takes us to the next set, Into the Inkdark. This set seems to be focusing on villains, especially Hades, who is the next big bad of the story. We're going to travel down into the Inkdark, which is situated beneath the Inklands. There we will encounter the Dark Illuminary, which we don't know a ton about. It's home to a lot of cool, wondrous, and obviously dark things, but that's really about it. There's no firm date on this set yet, but it will release in Q1 of 2027. Based on what Winterspell did, I'm going to say early February, probably. There's more that I have to say about Into the Inkdark, but we are going to come back to that later with products. So let's move on to the next set. It was previously revealed that we would get Leroy from Leroy and Stitch, probably showing up with some other experiments and aliens. That does make a ton of sense because we now know the name of this set will be Cosmic Quest, and we'll see us leaving the surface of the Inklands and blasting off into the stars. We will also learn more about story stars, which are a deep part of the game's lore that we, at this point, actually know almost nothing about. This set will release Q2 of 2027, probably sometime around May, similar to Wilds Unknown. They also teased a little bit about the following set, just some art. This is set 17. It will release Q3 of 2027, probably sometime around July or August, just like Attack of the Vine did. This will expand the number of fairies in the game because it will introduce Pixie Hollow. This will be the next rotation set where we lose Fabled, Whispers in the Well, Winterspell, and Wilds Unknown. That actually covers the next year's worth of sets. Obviously, there is still much we don't know about them, but we're going to transition on from sets into products. And one thing I can confidently say is that the next year will change the way we collect Disney Lorcana. Accidentally spoiled and then later confirmed, we now know more about the collector boosters that will be coming to Disney Lorcana with Into the Inkdark. Now, in case you're unfamiliar with the concept, this is something that other TCGs do. It's a type of booster with premium card treatments, but at a higher price point. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of collector boosters really in any game, but I do feel a little less nervous now that it is confirmed that nothing will be changing about regular boosters. They're still going to have that same distribution, 6 commons, 1 for each ink color, 3 uncommons. There will be 2 slots for a rare or better card and a foil slot. The collector boosters will also have 12 randomized cards. We don't know if it'll be in that same distribution or if you've got a chance at having more rare or better cards. They did say that all of the regular cards will have a special foil treatment that is only available in the collector boosters, both interesting and different from what we find in regular packs. There may also be a better chance at pulling those higher rarity cards, your epics, your enchanteds, even your iconics, perhaps. But the foil treatment on those will be the same as the regular boosters. So normal cards, different foil treatment, fancy cards, same foil treatment. So far, I don't have a problem with that. The intention here is also that they are largely available at local game stores and select Disney sites with a limited run for the Ravensburger online store. So you're not going to roll up to Walmart or Target and just find these sitting on the shelf. I actually like that part of it as well. I think that most reputable game stores will make sure these get into the hands of their actual customers instead of the growing number of scalpers that are attaching themselves to this game. And this is probably why they've said, somewhat optimistically, maybe even a bit naively, that they don't anticipate people ripping open a ton of these packs. They look at them more as a special treat for a player to open it and maybe get some cool cards to bling out their deck. Whether that'll actually happen, I'm not entirely convinced, but we will see. Oh, so far I'm kind of okay with all of this. My problem is they're introducing a new rarity that is even higher than iconic. They even showed one off, and I will admit it is gorgeous. This is Maleficent biding her time in the new Illustrious rarity. This is one of 6 Illustrious cards that'll be in the set, and if you think that number is weirdly specific, I will remind you that there are 6 different ink colors, so we can expect to have one for each color in the set. These cards are also clearly not limited to the current set, since this Maleficent is a throwback all the way to the first chapter. I do like that they are highlighting the artist with that artist credit front and center. But the problem for me is that number at the top. You see, this is what we call a serialized card, something that a few other games do. On the actual card, those X's will be replaced by a number out of 23. There will only be 23 of each of these illustrious cards printed, and then never again. So they will be exceptionally rare. Now, I do understand why they chose that number. It's significant in Disney history. 1923 was the year that the Walt Disney Studios was founded, and it is why this event is called D23. I do get that. I'm just not a huge fan of having these high-end chase cards. I mean, these things are going to go for tens of thousands of dollars easily. And that is going to attract more people looking to make a quick buck off the game. And where we already have huge issues with both supply and the growing number of scalpers, it's not going to make things better. Now, hopefully the team at Ravensburger can figure out a way to solve this sooner rather than later, because we need to do something about the supply. Seriously, I have never had this much trouble finding sealed product, not even for the first chapter. I missed the initial wave, but there was more stuff coming out. So unless that's happening for Attack of the Vine, this might be the hardest set I've ever had to collect. I'm even having trouble finding the singles I need, and I'm talking bulk rares that are less than $1. Anyway, rant over. Like it or not, collector boosters are coming with Into the Inkdark, and it's not meant to be a one-time experiment that they see how it goes. We can expect this to be a part of the product lineup at least for the next few years. Anyway, let's move into some more positive realms and talk about the other great products that are coming soon. First off, there is a new Curator's Collection coming very soon. It's very similar to what we saw with the Princess Collection that dropped at Disney locations a few weeks ago, only this one is themed for Beauty and the Beast. The cards are absolutely stunning. They got this stained glass motif that harkens to the prologue of the film. Beyond that, we don't really know much about it. No release date was announced, so price point was announced, but we can make a couple of assumptions. This product will probably drop sometime before the end of the year. It is meant to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Beauty and the Beast, which is 2026, and it'll probably be limited to just select Disney locations, such as the parks or maybe some flagship stores, just like the last one was. I believe the MSRP on the Princess Collection was about $100. Give or take, and I don't anticipate that being any different for this set. The last new product they announced is going to be more affordable and much more accessible. This is a visual guide through the magical realm. Now, this is not a collector's guide like we got last year for the first 4 sets and then for the next 4 sets. Just as a quick reminder, we will be getting a third one of those in the very near future, covering Fabled through Attack of the Vine. It is also not a lore book like we have with Quest of Wonders, which is coming out on September 1st. Nor is it an art book. This is a visual guide, and to be honest, I don't really know what that means. They didn't give us a ton of context, didn't show us anything in there. That does make sense because it's not coming out until Q1 of next year. There'll be more information coming, obviously. And as you can see here on the art, there is a promo that's going to be in the book. Don't ask, though. They did not show us. They didn't even tell us what it's going to be, which leads me to suspect that maybe this is from a set yet to be released. That's it for products. Now let's move on to events, and this is what I'm most excited about. I will reiterate that I am not going to be talking about the upcoming Disney Lorcana Challenge season. We got to save that for another video because there's just so much information. This is going to be a little bit more limited, but it is absolutely worth it. Like I said, I am so excited. First off, taking these in reverse order of what I'm most anticipating, they will be expanding Lorcana events throughout the Disney Cruise Line fleet. I guess the test they ran last year was very successful, and I will add those promos, which are beautiful, by the way, are also very collectible and highly valuable. So no reason to think that won't happen again. If you get a chance to go on one of these cruises, by all means, take advantage. Personally, I'm not that excited because I've never been on a cruise in my life. I would like to go, but I also have 5 kids under the age of 18, so it's going to be a while before I get a chance for that, I think. Next up is something I've been looking forward to for quite a while now, more than a year. They have confirmed that a digital client is now in the works for Disney Lorcana. Temper your expectations, though. They didn't even give us a hint of a release date, not even a window to look forward to. They even went out of their way to say this is not around the corner. But work is happening, and you can sign up for developer updates by going to disneylorcana.com/digital. And I will say that this thing is going to be huge. I think online ways to play trading card games are fantastic. It makes the game easier to learn, more accessible. You can test your decks a lot more quickly than you could with paper. It'll help solve meta problems a lot more easily. We had something like this in the past. It was fan run. Unfortunately, it was taken offline for various legal reasons. I missed that, and I'm glad to have something hopefully sooner rather than later to replace that. If something I have been dreaming about for 2 years is second on my list, then what could possibly be the announcement that I am most excited about? It is the International Festival of the Arts at Epcot. Full disclosure, I've never been to Epcot. I have never been to Walt Disney World Resort. I've never even been to the state of Florida. So why on earth would I be so excited about the International Festival of the Arts? To answer that, let's flash back to January 2026 when this year's festival kicked off. Disney Lorcana was there with several events that could net you a very beautiful promo. Now, obviously, I didn't go to that, but a lot of people did and were introduced to Disney Lorcana as a result. And it was so successful that they're going back for 2027. I, unfortunately, still don't get to go. So why has this announcement got me so excited? It's because of the promo they showed off at the panel. For those that don't know what you're looking at, this is Figment the Dragon. He is a character created by legendary Imagineer Tony Baxter for the ride Journey into Imagination. An original character created for a ride at a Disney park. And that means that all of my Lorcana dreams are one step closer to fruition. First, though, let's do pump the brakes just a little bit. This card is not out yet. The number 14 at the bottom means that this is from the next set, Hyperia City, and it has been confirmed by Ravensburger that this version of the card featuring Figment is exclusively created for the event at Epcot. It does make sense, of course, because Figment is practically the mayor of Walt's experimental prototype community of tomorrow. This, of course, represents a first because we have seen plenty of alternate art cards in Disney Lorcana. We've got Enchanteds, Iconics, DLC promos. We've never seen them change the subject of the art before. Now, obviously, with something like an iconic Buzz Lightyear, you can't throw Mickey Mouse in there. But even cards that aren't specifically tied to a character, a location, or a song, the subject has never strayed. Base version are revived with Mother Gothel. The Enchanted version also features Mother Gothel. Base version Spooky Sight has Mickey, Donald, and Goofy being chased by the Headless Horseman. The Enchanted version shows them being cornered by the Headless Horseman. So this change, I'll be honest, is a little bit disappointing to me. Figment, as far as we know, will not be appearing in the regular set of Hyperia City. This still fills me with a lot of hope because this opens a door that until I saw this card, I wasn't sure it even existed. Because if Figment can appear on a card, even in a limited promo capacity, that means that characters, locations, and stories that originate in any of the Disney parks are more than likely fair game as well. Now, maybe this doesn't mean anything, because we got Oswald the Lucky Rabbit all the way back in Shimmering Skies, and we still haven't seen him since. So maybe Figment is showing up just long enough to give us hope, and then we never see him again. But if Disney Lorcana has taught me anything, it's that we should never say never, because last year we got the Headless Horseman. And don't get me wrong, I love The Legend of Sleepy Hollow just as much as anybody, but I also know that popularity-wise, that doesn't stack up to something like Frozen or Moana. And yet here we are, the Headless Horseman in Disney Lorcana within the first 3 years. That is remarkable to me. And then one set later, we got the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future as represented by Jiminy Cricket, Willie the Giant, and Pete. So who's to say that Figment, even just showing up on a promo card, doesn't mean big things are coming to Disney Lorcana? Hopefully it won't be that long before we see Madame Leota, or Big Thunder Mountain, or the wonderful, amazing, iconic backside of water. I hope that's the case. I really hope this isn't just a one-off, because for me, adding this extra rich layer of Disney storytelling from the parks is just as big as adding the characters from Pixar or from the animated shows that I watched growing up. So fingers crossed, we see more of these kinds of characters, and sooner rather than later. That was the Disney Lorcana panel at D23, and now let me throw it over to you. Which of these announcements have you the most excited, or is there something other than the collector boosters that you'd rather not happen in the game? Drop your thoughts down there in those comments, and while you're there, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you can start shaping your algorithm. That way you don't miss any of our other Lorcana content like this video right here. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.